The village that runs the world there is a small Swiss town on the shores of a lake, surrounded by mountains, with a medieval clock tower and a population smaller than most university campuses. Its name is Zug. From the offices in this town, companies trade more oil, more copper, more grain, and more aluminium than any stock exchange on Earth. Almost no one who fills their car with petrol, eats imported wheat, or uses a copper wire has ever heard of it. That is not an accident. Everything that moves the physical world, the oil in your tank, the copper in your phone, the grain in your bread, the aluminium in your laptop was almost certainly traded by a company you have never heard of, in a town you have never visited, operating under rules that were designed specifically to keep you from knowing any of this. That town is Zug, Switzerland. Population, approximately 30,000. Headquartered there or nearby, Glencore, Trafigura, Vitol, Mercuria, Gunvor, 5 of the most powerful commodity trading companies on Earth. These companies collectively handle trillions of dollars of physical commodities every year. They are richer than many nations. They are less regulated than most supermarkets. This is the story of how one Swiss canton became the nerve center of global resource extraction and why it was built to be invisible. Before we can understand Zug, we need to understand what commodity trading companies actually do, because most people have no idea. When an oil field in Kazakhstan produces crude oil, it doesn't sell directly to a refinery in Rotterdam. A commodity trader stands in between. The trader buys the crude from the producing country or company, arranges the shipping, handles the insurance and logistics, manages the currency risk, stores the oil if the price timing is wrong, and sells it to the refinery when the numbers work. For this service, which combines logistics, finance, and risk management in real time across multiple jurisdictions, the trader earns a margin. That margin sounds small. On a per-barrel basis, it might be cents. But when you are moving millions of barrels a day across dozens of trade routes simultaneously, cents become billions. Vitol, one of the 5 major traders, moves approximately 7 million barrels of oil equivalent per day. That is more than most OPEC member nations produce. These companies are not household names. They are privately owned or very lightly publicly traded. They publish minimal financial information. They employ relatively few people for the wealth they generate. And they chose Switzerland, specifically Zug, and the nearby city of Geneva for reasons that are worth examining carefully. The answer begins with taxation. Zug has one of the lowest corporate tax rates in Switzerland, which already has one of the lowest corporate tax rates in Europe. For most of the 20th century, commodity trading profits booked through a Zug holding company were taxed at rates that could be as low as 5 to 7%. When the oil majors and mining companies were looking for a headquarters that would minimize their tax burden while remaining in a stable, reputable, neutral country, Zug was the answer. Switzerland's neutrality was the second factor. The commodity trading business operates in politically unstable environments. You trade oil from Angola, copper from the Democratic Republic of Congo, grain from Russia and Ukraine. a headquarters in a country that maintains diplomatic relations with everyone, that has not been in a war since 1815, that is not subject to American or European regulatory jurisdiction, that is extraordinarily valuable. The third factor is banking secrecy, or what remains of it. Swiss banks have historically provided commodity traders with financing instruments, letters of credit, prepayment arrangements, revolving credit facilities on terms and with confidentiality that no other banking system matched. The 5 major commodity trading companies headquartered in the Zug-Geneva corridor generate estimated annual revenues exceeding $300 billion. More than the GDP of most countries. The founding figure of modern commodity trading and of Zug's dominance is Mark Rich. Rich was an American-born commodity trader who in the 1970s built a company called Mark Rich Plus Company in Zug that effectively invented the modern spot market for oil. Before Rich, oil was bought and sold in long-term contracts between major producers and major oil companies. Rich created a liquid market where oil could be traded daily, in real time, by independent traders. It was a genuine financial innovation, and it made him extraordinarily wealthy. In 1983, Rich was indicted in the United States on 65 criminal counts, including tax evasion and trading with Iran during the hostage crisis. He fled to Switzerland, which declined to extradite him. He ran his business from Zug for the next 2 decades. Bill Clinton controversially pardoned him on his last day in office in 2001. After Rich's ex-wife made substantial donations to Democratic causes and the Clinton Presidential Library. Rich's company was eventually bought by its own management in a leveraged buyout. They renamed it Glencore. Under Ivan Glassenberg, Glencore became the largest commodity trader in the world. It was publicly listed in 2011 in what was, at the time, one of the largest IPOs in London Stock Exchange history. Today, Glencore is a major global company with revenues exceeding $250 billion annually. The Mark Rich pardon remains one of the most controversial acts of any American president's final hours in office. But what it illustrates is something larger. The commodity trading world operates in the spaces between national jurisdictions, and its most powerful figures have historically been very good at exploiting those spaces. The pardon is a symbol of that reality, not an isolated anomaly. The commodity trading industry has faced growing scrutiny since investigative journalists, particularly at Reuters, and in the book The World for Sale, began documenting its operations in detail. What they found was an industry that had operated for decades, with minimal regulatory oversight, strong connections to authoritarian governments and corrupt officials, and a consistent ability to profit from exactly the kinds of political instability that devastated the populations living above the resources being traded. Glencore has paid billions in fines to United States, United Kingdom, and Brazilian authorities for bribery in multiple African and South American countries. Trafigura was implicated in the Probo koala toxic waste dumping in Ivory Coast in 2006, which killed at least 17 people. Gunvor's founder, Gennady Timchenko, was placed under United States sanctions following Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. The industry has responded to increased scrutiny with larger compliance departments, more transparency reporting, and in some cases, public listings that require annual disclosure. But the fundamental architecture, Swiss domicile, private ownership structures, operations in jurisdictions with weak governance remains largely intact. Zug still looks like a medieval Swiss town. The clock tower still chimes. The lake is still beautiful. The geraniums are still on the windowsills. And in the glass office buildings above the old town, companies with names you don't know are moving the oil that heats your home, the copper in the wires that carry your electricity, and the wheat in the bread on your table. They do it profitably, efficiently, and largely invisibly, which is precisely how they prefer it. The most powerful brands in this story have no consumer brands at all. They have no logos you'd recognize, no products you could buy, no advertising you've ever seen. Their product is everything, everywhere, and their brand is designed to be nothing, nowhere. That invisibility is not a failure of marketing. It is the marketing. Next, in 2007, a telecoms company launched a mobile money service in Kenya. Today, it moves half the country's GDP. Western banks never saw it coming. M-Pesa.